Hello. When I lived in Japan last year, I went to some places, I did some things. I saw some things, man. One of the things that I did, one of the places I went to was the Yamazaki Whiskey Distillery in Kyoto prefecture, Osaka prefecture. I'm not entirely sure because the I don't know you can't really say state line because it's not a state, but the prefecture line is right there. I actually saw that sign. So I'm not sure if it's technically in Osaka or Kyoto. But anyway, now the reason I went there pretty much I noticed that it existed at all because I was going to Osaka one day, and I took the Hankyu line, I think it was, and one of the stations that we passed by was called Yamazaki, and I was like, Yamazaki, like the whiskey? And then, yes, it was. I saw from the train the distillery in the background, close to the mountain, which turned out to be a mountain called Tennozan. So I thought, okay, well, I'm going to stop there the next time, sometime, because, yeah, I want to see that. And the reason I wanted to see that pretty much is because of a certain little game series, Yakuza. And I'm not much of a drinker. I don't drink much alcohol at all, actually. In my lifetime, I'm 33 years old. I've been drunk maybe 5 times at the most, and only of those 5 times, maybe I think once or twice it was enough to have a headache the next day. Not like a full hangover, really, but at least a headache, and I didn't enjoy it. So I really I don't like to drink because I don't. Well, if I drink, I try to drink not so much so I don't have any problems the other next day because yeah, I vomited and once that was the other time that was bad. Not fun. It's not worth it, honestly. Even though the buzz is enjoyable, it's not worth it. That's for me. Also, for me, as my personality is, taste is king. For me, I love like stuff that tastes good, and alcohol typically doesn't taste good. So I don't really drink. I don't like beer. I don't like wine, even though a little bit of red wine could, maybe be okay. Just a sip, like just slap a beret on me, and I'm a Frenchman. Whiskey too strong. Vodka can, if you mix it out, it can be okay. But cider, I do drink, which of course in the culture we live in makes me come off as a homosexual, or at least makes people look at me a little oddly because like everyone drinks beer or something stronger, but cider is the thing that women drink apparently. But that's the one of the only things that actually tastes good. That and a few drinks, like stuff that's mixed. Like in Japan, I continually had this one called Cassis Orange, which is just some kind of fruit-based alcohol just mixed with juice, pretty much. And it wasn't strong at all. It barely tasted like alcohol. It just tasted like juice, pretty much, which made it completely fine for me to drink. I do love soda, which is also why I do drink like wine coolers, Bacardi Breezer, and those Smirnoff Ice and those kind of things. But once you get above like 5% alcohol, it's like, ugh. White wine, I think, is the worst. Champagne is just white wine with carbonation. So no, I don't like it. But I am, however, interested in the world of alcohol. Ironically enough, it is an interesting world. What it does to people and how they seem to live by it, and the different brands. You go into a liquor store or the liquor store in Sweden because there's like we have a monopoly instead of I don't know if it's state run or not. Haven't actually figured that out, but we only have one liquor store. In regular shops, you can buy stuff up to like 2.25% or something, but if you want any harder stuff, you have to go to the liquor store. And I've been there plenty of times, following with my with parents, friends, and that kind of stuff. So I've been, walking around, waiting, and then looking at the wines, the liquors, and of course, being a little allured to the hard stuff because it's like, yeah, that's what hard, cool people drink. And you get the images in your mind of all kinds of drinks. And beer, of course, is just the drink of the common man. But whiskey is the drink of a man's man, right? Cowboys and just tough guys in general. And then I played the Yakuza series, and there you have real drinks in the real bar in the bars, and they have little descriptions and stuff, and it was just cool to recognize stuff. And then it's like, okay, so you have some Japanese stuff, and the one that seemed to come up the most, and it was also in the hostess clubs available, was Yamazaki, specifically Yamazaki 12 years. And so, yeah, but the Yamazaki was like apparently a big drink, a big thing in Japan, as made of course by Suntory, and I've heard about Suntory even before Yakuza, because even though I hadn't seen the movie, the movie Lost in Translation was the Suntory time was a thing, more intensity. So yeah, so I went to the long story short, I went to the brewery, distillery actually. A brewery is for beer, distillery is for whiskey. So yeah, it was in by the station Yamazaki, pretty close to there. I went into you could take a guided tour with people I think spoke English for 1,500 yen or something. But I just went in for free. Just went around. You can just go around a separate. You can go if you take the guided tour. You can go into the actual distillery. If you go in for free, you can go into the sort of mini museum that they have in a separate building, which is what I went for. And when I went in there also I picked this up, which is sort of a little booklet with history and stuff. So looking in that, and then I'll just be looking at that a bit, and then show you some pictures from inside while I'm reading pretty much. But I won't read the whole thing obviously, but still. Yes, it was founded, Suntory was founded by Shinjiro Tori. I think that's where the Tori comes from. Also found a story about the Tori. They have a whiskey called Tori that's sold in regular stores. That's one of their cheaper brands. And I didn't, because I'm stupid, I didn't understand that Duke Nukem Forever meant forever until 2013 or something. So yeah, the Tori, I thought that's made by Suntory. It says on the bottle, but I didn't know that it was Tory as in Suntory. I thought it was Tory as is inspired by the British political party. So, yeah. But anyway, I saw that, and Tory in Suntory is based on his name. That's why. And then the sun, I don't know exactly where that comes from. The history of Japanese whiskey making began with the passion of our founder, Shinjiro Tori. His dream to create a perfect whiskey that reflects the nature of Japan and the spirit of Japanese craftsmanship led Tori to embark on the difficult business of authentic domestic whiskey making that no one had ever attempted at the time. The history of Suntory whiskey and consequently the history of Japanese whiskey were begun by the fearless challenge undertaken Tori, who embarked on whiskey making after prevailing against the opposition he faced. There's a picture of the distillery in the 30s and then today, which the one I went to. With his unwavering preference for high-quality water and natural environment that are vital in whiskey making, Tori selected the land of Yamazaki, located at the foot of Mount Tenno-san in southwestern Kyoto, from among several candidate sites. The land had long been famous for its exquisite natural water, which is even mentioned in the Manyoshu, the oldest anthology of Japanese poetry. And he started a distillery, he opened it, he started constructing it in 1923. Yes. Other Japanese whiskey makers are, right now I can only think of one, Nikka, which is the one with the king, which is also on the, there's a big one on the wall in central Sapporo. I wonder if Nikka is from Hokkaido, I'm not entirely sure, but it would make sense because I would assume Hokkaido has great water. Taking Tori's dream even further, Keizo Saji, the second president of the company, established Suntory's second distillery in 1973. The location selected was situated at the foot of Mount Kaikomagatake in the southern Japan Alps. And yes, that is in Japan, not Switzerland. Making new types of whiskey that vary from whiskies produced at the Yamazaki distillery had begun at the distillery, which is unique in the world, being located at high altitude in a rich natural environment with Hakushu's purest water. And yes, that gives birth to the other, the second in, I would call it the second in their line of whiskies. Maybe third, but anyway, their kind of crown of Suntory whiskies, as I know it, it's the Yamazaki. And they have, of course, varying years. Like the highest one I've seen in the Yakuza games, and also in real life, is Yamazaki 30 years, I think. And then you have like 25, and then 12, and then no years at all. And then the second in line, I would say, is the Hibiki. I think we'll come to that later. And then Hakushu, which has 12 years. Probably some special edition that has more years, but still. In 2003, the Yamazaki 12-year single malt whiskey produced at the Yamazaki Distillery became the first Japanese whiskey to win the gold medal at the International Spirits Challenge, ISC, the authoritative spirits competition in the world. And the Japanese are quite proud of that. They continue to win several awards for other whiskies. And in 2010, Suntory became the first Japanese company to be awarded the title of Distiller of the Year. Ching! Very nice. It goes into a little bit of the creation. Malt whiskey is made from water and barley. We start by germinating and drying carefully selected 2-row barley to produce malt. The malt is then finely ground and mixed with water in a mash tun. What's a mash tun? Where enzymes in the malt break down the starch contingent into sugar. We then slowly filter the mixture to obtain clear, unclouded wort. Wort? Not like the stuff that grows on feet, I hope. And then it's put into these huge-ass wooden barrels, wooden and stainless steel washbacks. I don't know what a washback is, but I guess it's this big barrel thing. This yeast, and add yeast. This yeast converts the sugars into the wort into alcohol and carbon dioxide while generating this distinctive flavor components that define whiskey. The fermented liquid that results from this process, called wash, can have many different characteristics depending on the factors such as the type of yeast used and da-di-da-di-da. And then they have the stills, which look like whatever they look like. They're very distinctive looking, although I can't say exactly what they look like. Maybe some kind of coffee pot or something. They have one on the outside of the building, actually. And there's been stories I saw on Kotaku anyway. There's been a bunch of whiskey shortages recently in Japan, and then they retired one of the stills to put it outside there, like 20 years ago or something. And then now that they're having shortages, they're like kicking themselves that they didn't keep using it. But and they put it into barrels or casks. They say sherry barrels all the time. I know sherry is a kind of wood, I assume. I'm not very good at that. I know that mahogany is an expensive kind of wood. I don't know too much about wood. Oh yeah, they put in the barrels and then they go to aging. Of course, the 12 years has been aging for 12 years. However, if you buy one that's not aged and you just have it standing around the bottle for 10 years, does that constitute aging, or does it have to be in a barrel? And if you buy cheaper, non-aged, and you have a barrel at home and you put it in there, does that count as aging? I don't know. The skill of master blenders brings out a variety of flavors. Now, I think that blending does not mean one of those thing. But yeah, blenders, I guess that's a person. Anyway, blended whiskey is, as far as I know from a couple of people I know who like whiskey, blended whiskey is not as good as single malt whiskey is the better option. It's more exclusive and stuff. And blended whiskey is cheaper. I know that. Like Ballantine's Finest and that kind of stuff. Yeah. Also, the thing that Scotch is, it's a Scotch whiskey, right? But Scotch just means it's from Scotland. I didn't understand that. I thought it was Scotch as in that was just the name of, I don't know, that's whiskey. That's like a different kind of drink or something. Yeah. There's also the thing about whiskey and whiskey, the one with E-Y and the one with just Y after whisk. And I don't know the difference between those, but yeah. And then they have a little bit of how to enjoy whiskey, like whiskey and soda makes a highball, whiskey and natural mineral water, half rock, twice up. Just a bunch of, okay, it's like half the glass is whiskey, the other half is water. On the rocks, straight, of course, and then you have the separate glass of water so you can take the edge off or whatever. Pussy. Anyway, and it has a little bit of propaganda for whiskey, so to speak. Whiskey is easy on the body, low in calories, low in carbohydrates. This is kind of funny, though. Aromatic relaxation. The cask aging process produces the characteristically rich aromas of whiskey, as soothing to the soul as a walk through a quiet forest. Okay. So yeah, I walked through the distillery. It was nice. It had a bunch of stuff. It had this little mini museum. It was nice. They actually had a gift shop in there, and I went there at a time that I was starting to wanting to conserve my money a little bit, having bought hundreds of games. So I didn't actually buy I was going to buy maybe a pen with the Yamazaki, but everything was pretty expensive actually. And buying like a whiskey glass would be kind of stupid because I don't drink anyway. However, because of the Yakuza series and especially like Yamazaki 12 years, I wanted, I was always in Japan playing with the idea of maybe getting one, like a full bottle, you know. But then they cost 20,000 yen, and I almost never found any. It was really fucking hard to find, and it was before the actual shortage, and even at the actual distillery, they didn't have it on sale, seemingly anyway. After I left, someone told me that you had to ask for it, but during my whole time in Japan, I pretty much saw it at Don Quixote in Okinawa, in Shinjuku, Kabukicho, Kamurocho, and then I saw it in like a big camera or Don Quixote in Kyoto also one time, and I started to see these little mini bottles for like 2,000 yen. It was also very expensive. I thought of buying one of those because it's at least it's something. I didn't actually do that, but then I bought a slightly bigger bottle but it wasn't 12 years. But then it was like, yeah, okay, fine, I'll settle with that. It's also small enough to easily bring back in my bag and stuff. Then I went to the ever awesome Yahoo auctions and started. I had looked a little bit before too to look for Yamazaki whiskeys. All I could find, of course, was full bottles with came in like wooden wooden boxes and everything, all pristine and nice and expensive. However, then I found what I did bring home. A bottle of Yamazaki 12 years, except it was empty. An empty bottle of Yamazaki 12 years for 800 yen, I think it was, with shipping added on top of that, of course. And there's still like a couple of drops here in the bottom, which I don't plan on drinking because I don't know how old they are, but you can still smell the Yamazaki. But anyway, I have this on display now next to my Goro Majima perfume. And yeah, this is cool because this is just, a piece of the Yakuza series pretty much, even though it's technically, it's a real thing. But I saw it in the game, so it counts as a game thing. That's, I'm strange like that. So yeah, that was my video about the Yamazaki whiskey and distilleries and how it relates to games and me. And I drink Yamazaki, you should too.